Thank you, Sam. And before we jump into that, first we want to take a quick poll. We want to learn a little bit more about you all. And so let us know, are you currently in a state, district, or school that's granting biliteracy seals? Hopefully you see that popping up and you can cast your vote. There's a few different options. Maybe you are, or maybe you are in a state, district, or school that has not yet implemented a seals program, or maybe you're not in a state, school, or district. It looks like about 79% of you are in a state, school, or district that is currently implementing biliteracy seal programs. About 3% of you so far is in a state, district, or school that has yet to implement a seal program. And maybe about 17% of you so far is not in a state or school where they are granting biliteracy seal programs. Okay, it looks like the majority of you have voted, so let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about what kind of work we're doing in the REL Southwest in this area. Okay, next slide. All right, so we wanted to first highlight some of the themes from the biliteracy seal research. This is a newer area of research. As Sam mentioned, California was the first state to formally adopt a seal of biliteracy, and so granting of the state seals has really proliferated in the last 5 to 7 years. So to date, most of the literature has really focused on examining the variation of biliteracy seal policies and requirements across state, or has focused on understanding the number of seals granted annually. In addition, there's also been some qualitative studies dating from around 2017 or 2020 that have begun to examine student and administrative perceptions about benefits and barriers to obtaining biliteracy seals. But there is an area for growth when you want to look at the research base around biliteracy seals, especially in the area of quantitative studies, and also studies that focus on understanding issues around equity of access to seals, and also linking benefits of seals to student outcomes. There's also some preliminary research linked to the benefits of biliteracy seals. One researcher is conducting his literacy on biliteracy seals in California, and preliminary results indicate that K-12 students in schools with biliteracy seal programs had a higher percentage of English learner students that became proficient in English. And this is especially true for Spanish and Mandarin speakers when compared with schools without biliteracy programs. In addition, there have been some other studies that found links between language immersion programs and improved proficiency in a student's primary language, listening and writing skills compared to English-speaking students taking elective courses in another language. Now, why does it matter if a student's listening and writing skills improve in their primary language? Well, past researchers such as August and Shanahan or Goldenberg have theorized that a student's linguistic and oral proficiency increases in their primary or home language, but as that happens, their knowledge transfers to their second language, and that this cross-linguistic transfer happens. Okay, next slide. And Sam got to this in his slides, but this is getting to that college and career readiness and workplace skills. So, some states have begun to use these biliteracy skills as one way to recognize college and career readiness. And some are actually saying that college and career readiness, that they need to incorporate literacy into those 21st century skills, and that bilingualism, that's another way to expand the definition of college and career readiness and how to prepare students to respond to the job market to skills that are sought after by employees. And in fact, the demand for foreign language skills is actually increased over time. In a 2017 survey, the number of job advertisements called for bilingual skills increased fivefold between 2010 and 2015. So in light of the proliferation of biliteracy skills over the last decade and the relatively small number of research studies on this topic, REL Southwest and its Southwest English Learners Partnership has taken on biliteracy skills as an area of focus. So we want to share with you some of the work on biliteracy skills under the partnership. But before we do that, we wanted to just give you a brief overview of the partnership and the kinds of work that we do in REL Southwest. So the Southwest English Learners Partnership, or SWEL, is a group of advisors from within the state who meet several times a year to highlight high leverage or high priority needs of English learner students, and we help to formulate these priorities into potential projects to support English learner students in New Mexico. The partnership has two primary goals. The first goal focuses on improving education outcomes for all English learners by working with the New Mexico Public Education Department to use evidence to inform and drive policy and practice improvements. The other goal focuses on improving education outcomes for American Indian English learner students by building knowledge and capacity among state and local education agencies to meet the needs of learners. And the ways that we do this work is through a few different kinds of activities. The first involves coaching and training projects. Next, we do applied research projects. And then last, we do what we call bridge events or in-person events open to broad audiences. And then we focus on dissemination of promising practices on latest research or webinars such as this one. So now let's hear about some of the projects based on this partner feedback. So the first one is a coaching and training project that was designed and conducted by a team from NMPED and some other New Mexico stakeholders with support from REL Southwest researchers. This project involved conducting focus groups in 2019-20 to gain a better understanding of the priorities, experiences, challenges, and successes of the adopters of the state seal of bilingualism and biliteracy in order to inform New Mexico Public Education Department of the efforts to support a successful implementation. This involved gathering 10 focus groups comprising 34 participants over the course of 2019-20. The participants included bilingual and world language teachers, 12 bilingual district directors and coordinators, a tribal educator, and 7 students. A number of questions were posed in the focus group, such as reasons for adopting and pursuing the biliteracy seals, current priorities around the seals, and parents were informed of the seals, processes with students pursuing the seal and also have IEPs, pathways to demonstrating proficiency, and also just discussing requirements, challenges, successes. Next slide. So as a group, some of the things that emerged out of these focus groups were some recommendations, and these focus on 3 areas, such as how to support for the seals around guidance. Some of the guidance was around training and cross-district sharing. Also, how to promote the seals. Some of the ideas that they talked about were student ambassadors or community partners, business leaders, or how to more successfully utilize tribes in colleges. And another area that they focused on was the student portfolio process and how to use recommendations to identify portfolio judges and create rubrics in order to standardize the requirements around this portfolio requirement. All right, next slide. So next we have a quantitative applied study that has just launched to better understand in one district what kinds of schools grant biliteracy seals and the characteristics of students who earn those seals. In this particular district, there are 4 options to earning the biliteracy seals, so that way REL Southwest can study differences across earning each of the types of seals and the requirements and the potential barriers across each type. We will also be reviewing differences in post-secondary outcomes between those who did and did not earn the seals. We will be studying students who earned the seals between 2017-18 through 2019-20. We're going to be working with the district to obtain the data over the course of the next several months and then analyzing the results. The final report is anticipated to be published on the IES and REL Southwest website in the fall of 2022. Next. So finally, the REL Southwest is working to produce a video on the biliteracy seal process, focusing on tribal certification in New Mexico through the perspective of students who have earned the state seal of bilingualism and biliteracy. The video will highlight researcher, educator, and student voices. REL Southwest produced another mini documentary in 2020 called Walking in Both Worlds, Native American Students, and Language Acquisition. The biliteracy video will follow a similar feel and format. If you haven't seen the video, we highly recommend you take a look at it. We think it's a really informative video. We're really proud of it. All right, next. All right, so at this point, we want to pause and see if some questions have come through in the chat box and see if we can address them at this point. And I don't see any questions that have come through, but why don't we just take a minute and see if you all have questions. Looks like a couple people are typing, so we'll just give them a minute. Great. I see somebody asked if we could share the name of the video and where to locate it, so we'll be sure to put that link in the chat box. Thank you, Angelica. And yes, and somebody will address, we will be making the presentation available and we will post it to our website, and we will be sure to put more directions on how you can access that later. And somebody's asking about what's the best place to put the seal, diploma, or transcript. I'm sure one of our other panelists, they can address how they do that, and we also are going to have our New Mexico Public Education Department presenters. They can talk about how they do that also. And then there was a question about how the research started. Are there teams currently being put together? I'm not sure which project you're referring to. I know the district one, we are just getting started on that one, so that's going to be going underway over the course of this year, and the research team is already put together. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and move on, but if you guys have more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box, and then we'll periodically take a look at them and circle back.